Hello, everyone, and a very interesting session once again. This is about relationship. This is about our marital, premarital equations and balances. And I think all of you must be eagerly waiting for our session today. So, for taking us through this topic, we have Dr. Asad Chaturvedi. Dr. Asad Chaturvedi is a positive psychologist and also a relationship coach. He has been working in this field for last 12 years. He's a well-known author and a speaker. So he writes, he has his books are published. He also speaks on the topic of self-motivation as well as relationship in various forums. So let's start this discussion, a very, very interesting discussion, which all of our audience are definitely waiting, Dr. Asad. And I have a bag full of questions for you.
Thank you, Sharmishta. Wonderful to be with you. And I look forward to those questions and hopefully be able to answer most of them.
Thank you. So let's get into the core of the questions. We always have been hearing that opposites attract, right? So whether it's Mills and Bones, whether it's Bollywood, the theme is same. There are two opposite personalities and they get attracted to each other, fall in love, and are living happily ever after. Now, when you really look in today's scenario, what's happening in the outside, so you see that more and more there are women who are working, women who are equal to men, or we have joining hands, and there are a match of personalities which are bringing into the system, right? And what is that bringing us to? That's also bringing us to a lot of challenges that we generally talk about. So we say, like, okay, any study that we look, any research that we look, that the number of divorces are increasing, the number of separations are increasing, or the issues in the marital life is kind of increasing day by day. So, and why the reason? The reason is because the women have progressed. The reason is because we have become educated, and that kind of takes away the whole content. And there is a one para of how the men also have to groom themselves and be trained to match up with the changing world. So what is your take on this whole cliche attitude that one, two, the opposites attract, and the second, that the whole rest of the problem that's happening in the world is because the women have progressed? So what's your take on this whole cliche understanding of this problem?
So I think that first of all, we should actually try to understand this from a very different perspective. And when we talk about the women have progressed more or things like, I think that is also a cliche. So let us talk about the fact rather that yes, opposites do attract and they do bring a certain amount of familiarity in terms of the fact that I like something, you like something opposite to that, and hence we are able to merge the two. But what happens when two people who are equally assertive, equally hardworking, equally dynamic, equally go-getters? So that's what we call the strong personalities, which we are seeing in today's society. And that's how I would define strong personalities. There are two people who have clear goals in mind. They are achievers in their own space and their own right. They're very assertive in their nature, and they do not back down from challenges. And then how do these two personalities get along? This is where actually the entire thing lies. The one is the opposite attracts kind of scenario, as you very correctly put it, the Mills and Boone, and the typical romantic hero who came on a horse, tall, dark, and handsome, and the girl who was swept off her feet. And then there's this other model today where it is actually the girl who is tall, dark, and handsome, rather tall, dark, and beautiful, and she sweeps the guy off his feet. But to be very honest with you, I think both the sides or both the types of models have their pros and cons. I remember a long time back, somebody used to use a very, very lovely dialogue. They used to say that in a love marriage, you marry the person you love, but in an arranged marriage, you love the person you marry. So it's something similar over here, that in a model where the opposites are attracting, you can certainly overcome certain challenges. And because you have, a varied kind of personality, and therefore one person either takes a front seat and one person maybe takes a back seat, and then it reverses in another situation. But then what happens in the current model, which we are seeing, the model which is slowly beginning to develop, where both the personalities are rather assertive in nature, that if they are able to actually combine together and face the challenges that are coming their way in their relationship, actually it's a wonderful recipe for success. Rather than a recipe for disaster, it's a wonderful recipe for success because you have got more input, more knowledge, more skill set, and more attitude of succession to deal with, or attitude of success to deal with these challenges. So my take on this is that yes, things are changing, and to understand how they are changing is, let us define those strong personalities, which we did, and let us also understand that while the earlier model has its own advantages, this new model, if handled little carefully, has also got massive advantages to take the relationship to the next level.
Right. I think that's a very interesting insight. That you know that in a strong relationship, I think they both can be the cheerleader for each other. And
Absolutely.
whenever and these dynamic situation, uncertainty or challenges in life that you have someone who is kind of able to understand you, because they also have probably in the same space and in the same have a certain worldview, and they become your best friend in this, where in a society where it is very competitive, people are running their own race. You have a companion who is your trust model. But having said that, I think what you very interestingly brought in, that this whole system of being in a relationship with another strong personalities, and when we talk about strong, is basically people who have their own views, they have their own opinions, they are go-getters, they have their own personal goals, and they are not just a shadow of your running through. When you have two strong personalities in a system, I think there are also ways where we have to figure out how to balance it, right? And that brings into my next question very immediately. What are those typical challenges that you see majority of the people coming? I know everyone is very unique in their way, but typically what are the trending challenges that you see that the modern couples come with?
Very nice. Very nice. So I'll list down four major challenges which I see that are something that modern couples are struggling with, and then we'll talk about each one of them. But the number one would be probably, I think a recent study said somewhere close to 60 to 65% of modern couples face the challenge of interference from their families. The second thing is that with this interference happening, they are unable to retain their own identities because they are being asked to be somebody which they are not. And then the third thing is that the financial part of the equation. One thing which modern couples don't realize is that finances are for both of them. It is not just, well, so how do they manage the fact that both the parties are bringing in adequate financial resources into the relationship, and what do they do from there? So there is obviously some money of my own and some money of ours and some money of yours. It is, what's the equation? How does that pie chart work? And the fourth thing would be that there is a lack of I think it is a reluctance, and probably that is to do with the societal fabric in our country, is that they don't want to, or they don't feel comfortable talking to a professional or talking to somebody who has an idea about what relationships are all about before they even get into a relationship, which I think is a very important point, and one should always do that. Now, family interference, if you focus on it, is something that we have been seeing for donkey's years, and it's not just in India; it's all across the world. It would be very unfair to say that family interference exists only in our country. It exists all over the world. Obviously, the degrees are varying, but it is a challenge because families can be very overbearing, they can be very demanding, they can be very interfering. And if, for example, if one of the partners in this relationship is very close knit to their family and they are not able to disconnect the umbilical cord, so as we call it, it is very tough then for them to be able to explain to the other person how things are moving. So it would be very, very of a great interest for either party to understand, to make them understand, one party to get the other party to understand their families, so that they can know from which angle they are coming. Once that is done, then it becomes easier to retain their own identity, because what happens is that we have this, there's this famous saying that in India, you don't marry the person, you marry the family, or you don't get into a relationship with one person, you get in. But actually, that's a cliche. And if either of the people involved in this relationship are able to explain to the other partner the nature of their family and how they are, how they have their ideas about, for example, an idea about how you raise a family. So one party's family may have a different view on it, that they may feel that children should be born very early on in the equation, whereas the other party might be thinking, no, we need to take our time, we need to get to know each other well, we need to first understand each other before we even think about bringing a third life into our equation. So how do they retain that identity? Even, for example, I would like to say that uh, how do you manage to this is a very interesting challenge that comes up. How do you manage to keep your friendships going after you get into an equation with somebody? So it's like you had some friends, very close friends, and you want to continue to meet them, but now you realize that you have to give some time to your relationship. So how do you go and talk to each other, and how do you spend more time with your friends as well as with your partner? So this is that retaining identity kind of space. And then the third space is the finances. See, everybody is earning today, especially in the kind of we are seeing of course, now COVID has come in, so we can't really comment what is going to be the future. But we have seen over the last 5 to 10 years, there has been a complete upsurge in salaries, and the definition of a middle class family is somebody who earns, or some family who earns more than 18 lakhs in a year. Who would have thought that? Earlier it used to be somewhere 4 lakhs or 5 lakhs. So obviously incomes have gone up. Now what do you do with this money? Because there are personal desires, there are familial desires. So how do you actually understand that when you are in a partnership, money has to be spent together as well, not just individually. It is not my money, but it is our money. So this is one challenge that I see often coming across to me, that I'm earning so much and she's earning so much, or I'm earning so much and he's earning so much, and why can't he spend on that? Why do I have to spend on it? But if there is I in a relationship, there is no I. There should only be we. I comes secondary. There is no I in a relationship. And then the fourth thing is that the premarital or pre-relationship counseling, which I think is a very, very important aspect in any relationship. I would say even if it is a non-love angle relationship, even when you are trying to set up any kind of relationship, you should talk to a professional as to what are the parameters of this relationship, what is will be expected from you, what can you expect from someone else, how much of the boundaries can you stretch, and what will happen if you stretch the boundaries, how can you deal with that. These are some interesting questions that need to be answered. So I would say these are the top four challenges that I see amongst modern couples more than ever.
I think that's a very, very interesting aspect from a perspective that interference of the family bring into something that I think every counselor or every expert in all our sessions have been talking about, is the aspect of boundaries. Boundaries for self, boundaries for our unit of family, boundaries with our parents. The whole element of boundaries is very interesting, and every individual should consciously try to explore that element of boundaries with whether for their own self and whether from the relationship perspective. I think the other very interesting aspect that you brought in is from the financial perspective. And I would like to highlight that many of my friends have gone through, today a lot of women are earning much more, or organizations are very pro women leadership programs. So it's very obvious and very known that women might start earning more at a certain point than the man of the family, or the husband or the spouse. And maybe the it's very obvious or cliche to think that the guy has a problem, but sometimes it is also the women who starts having a problem, because the person has been brought up slow in a patriarch organization, set up in a family where she believes that has seen the father to be the only bread earner and taking the larger role and responsibility. So the person person expects that my husband also should be always ahead of me and earning more, and that brings in a lot of pressure on the other party.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I'm saying the other part of it, of course the known part is known, where the other reverse is true, but the other way is also becoming very, very relevant these days, where the women is earning more, but at the same time it's putting a lot of pressure on the other party to equally run the race, or probably go ahead of the other person, so that kind of satisfy the patriarchal need of having the man in front of me. And
Absolutely.
I'm sure that
Absolutely.
we discussed this trend also as in relationships. So a profound mutual
Definitely.
respect of differences, and doing the boundary element, understanding the relationship, what you are expecting out of a relationship, and going and reaching out for an expert or a support to define some of those elements well in advance, can be definitely make some magical changes in the hiccups that people have, or making smaller issue into the bigger issue kind of syndromes, or going from 0 to 100 at one swing. I think those syndromes can be definitely protected if some of these simple steps are taken. Right.
True. True. True.
Coming to the next element, or the questions that I was thinking about, that now that we spoke about what are some of the issues that definitely comes in, what is that you will advise to people who are probably constantly fighting over some issues, and that can be any. And since we are talking, I think in a COVID situation where people are sitting at home and there are constant conflict about something, either it is about how the children are being taken care of, or how the work is getting distributed, or how financials are, or any stress at office which we are bringing back at home. So there might not be a major disruptive challenge, but there is a constant conflict and plus and minus which is going on for some time. So what is that advice that you will give to them to kind of bring back some, bring back some peace, or plug in that peace button in the home?
There is on a light-hearted way, let me say that the very famous saying in English that absence makes the heart grow fonder. So when couples travel a lot, they seem to have a lot of love for each other because they don't see enough of each other. And when they finally do see each other, then it is something that, oh, great, after so many days, wow, wonderful, I missed you so much. But now, thanks to COVID, that situation itself has completely turned on its head. And you cannot leave alone traveling, you cannot even step out of your house. So it's a very difficult situation, there's no doubt. But I would say that if couples can, if especially the couples which are facing this kind of little, sit down and try to do a root cause analysis as to where this irritation is stemming from. See, you made a very interesting point before you came to this question, where you said that yes, women are earning more, and sometimes it is not just the men who can have a problem with it, but it's the women also who can have a problem, saying that, okay, I'm earning more, fine, but I'm the woman of the house. You're the man of the house. I grew up seeing my father take care of every single expense. So why is it that you are not able to pull your weight? The same way here, and that could be it's a very minor issue, but it could snowball into something very big. So when couples are facing the situation of fighting, I won't say like cats and dogs, but having some kind of altercation, or some kind of, the word which we use is, pecking at each other on a constant basis, I think it's time to take a step back, to first look inward and see what has changed in oneself over the past 4 months or so, or over the past 4 years or so, or over the past 10 years or so, and then to look outward and to see what has changed in your partner, and then to sit together and try to see what has changed as a unit. Because the only constant in life is change. We all change every single day. And if we do not realize that with change comes a different attitude, with change comes a little bit of irritation about certain things. So certain things which we used to, gloss over, now they become a little sticking point. Okay, this is not happening, that is not happening. So I would say, if they can sit down and try to understand what has changed, or how has the goalpost shifted, then it would be easier for them to come to some conclusion as to, and then redefine or redesign a new system. See, it's not necessary that if we were to take this, since you mentioned about people coming back, bringing their work back home. Now, if we were to take a business, the most successful businesses change their strategies every year. They change the way they do business every year. Why can't a couple change the way they interact with each other every day? Why can't they create newness, bring about newness in their relationship? It's not necessary that what they have been doing all along is going to be successful for the rest of their lives. They change as individuals, and they need to understand that and find newer ways. So do newer things. I would say that even if it is taking some time off just as a unit, taking some time off just as a person, saying I want to sit alone and understand and sort of try to imbibe what has happened. Doesn't have to be outside, it could be in the house itself, but trying to understand what has changed will help them a lot, because things change every single day, and there is no denying that. So that's what I would advise couples to do if they are having this problem of constantly pecking at each other.
Yeah, I think that also brings in that I was reading somewhere that one of the important aspect is the willingness, and I brought in that part of it, that are we willing to do something about it? We are pecking, we are fighting, we are irritated about things, we are blaming each other constantly, but are we open to or willing to introspect? Are we open and willing to change? And even if one person is open to willing introspect within themselves, change, do something differently, I think even that, and if that person's contribution to the whole issue is even 1% or 2% of it, I think even that helps, because the person has to start, rather than continuously blaming and seeing what's going wrong and what the other person is doing wrong. I think that one person who is willingly sitting and saying like, okay, I really need to do something about it, I need to change it, and then introspecting what's wrong, what's happening, where are my triggers, and what can I do differently about my triggers. I think that itself can bring in certain change in when there are these day-to-day issues and there is a constant nagging or constant pecking kind of challenges that you face, and which sometimes take a toll on your emotional well-being, which sometimes we don't realize, but it's just adds on in a toll. But now coming to the next phase, that one is where where there are no serious issues, maybe there are just something that's going on for many years, and how do you probably look at it differently. But what happens when someone is relationship is in a ICU? When I say ICU, it is like basically they need additional oxygen. There are some major issues which has happened, whether it's infidelity, whether there's commitment issues, whether there is a big lie which has been told, trust has been broken, or say there are many huge financial crunch and there are some kind of financial commitment issues. So when some of these things people face in a relationship, what are couple of things that you think, that actions that couple should start looking into? Of course, being upset, sad, etc. is one part of it, but that's not going to solve the problem. What is the solution centric perspective that they should approach?
This is a common question that I get asked, and one of the things which I like to tell people is that first you need to understand what is the value of the relationship to you. Your relationship might be in ICU, you might have a case of infidelity, you might have a financial crisis, you might have a severe disagreement of opinion between your partner and your family, whatever it is. It could be so many things. But is this relationship more valuable than all of these things to you? That is the first question you need to ask yourself. If the answer is yes, then it's a no-brainer. You have to work out your, whatever those problems are. So if you have to forgive, then you have to forgive. If you have to ask for forgiveness, then you have to ask for forgiveness. And, one of the things which I have seen, not just with couples, but with individuals also, eating humble pie or asking for somebody's forgiveness is not a very easy thing that we like to do. We are very, very reluctant to ask for forgiveness. We are very reluctant to forgive also. So I would say first question, is this relationship more valuable to you than the challenge that you are facing? Number one. If the answer is yes, then whatever it takes forgiveness, it takes begging for forgiveness, it takes kick-starting everything all over again, it takes, probably infusing funds from your side to, work out that financial crisis, whatever it takes, you do. However, the question is, if the answer is maybe this relationship is not that valuable to me, or maybe this is something which I just cannot get over. Like a lot of people cannot get over infidelity. They find it something which is, or as you correctly pointed out, breaking of trust. Infidelity is also a type of breaking of trust. Then, well, the boundaries are sort of endless, because as a counselor, it would be very wrong on my part to ever tell people to separate or to split, because that is not what but then there are certain unique and very, very strange circumstances where we were talking about this earlier, where you need to understand whether you are happy or not. And in every relationship, while we said a few questions back that a relationship is about we, but it also makes up to individuals. And a person has every right to be happy in their relationship. And if they are not happy, then, well, the whole game plan changes. So I would say, first thing, find out if this relationship is more valuable than the challenge that you are facing, and then do whatever it takes to save it.
How do one understand what is the value of my relationship? What does that construe of? So while we discuss, maybe that, when you go to pre-counseling sessions, etc., you understand what each of us expecting out of the relationship. Absolutely. And I think then that becomes into the value of your relationship. So what are the key elements?
There are three phases to this, Sharmishta. The first phase is the one which you're talking about, the pre-marital or the pre-relationship, where you understand each other's values, your value systems, your beliefs, what you have grown up with, how your family thinks, or how the other person's family thinks, etc. Then the second phase is when you are going through your relationship, that how you are coming together and how you are bringing your mind together, and what are you as a unit, what do you stand for? Do you stand for X or Y or Z? And then the third phase is, as you have gone by with certain time in your life, now what are you? Who are you individually? Who are you together? How have your values changed, if at all? If they have not changed, are they still the same what they were 5 years or 10 years or 20 years back? And if they have changed, what are they representing now? And most importantly, when I say value, is that can you do without this person in your life? That is the number one question that you should be asking yourself, because what you spoke about ICU is exactly that. I mean, either I am in it to the end, or then I back out. So if I value this person and what we have built together over these three phases a lot, then I will do whatever it takes. And if I do not value it, I feel that no, there's a limit to everything. And no matter how much we have grown as a thing, this one thing I cannot bring myself to condone or to accept, then, well, you need to relook at the situation and take your call from there.
Right. So that also brings into the, what if one person is overvaluing the relationship, right? Because sometimes when we talk about values and introspection and everything, a lot of societal norms also are so inbuilt or conditioned in our system that it's very interwoven with our own individual perspectives. So what if one person values the relationship a lot and the other person do not value it that much? So there is always a challenge and a push and a pull. And where one person is putting a lot of willingness, effort, while it can continue for a certain time, but there is always a line that gets drawn. So where do you feel that happens? Where that line gets drawn, and where probably some of those...
I think this question, Shanush, very individualistic kind of approach has to be taken. See, because this is like, you cannot second guess anyone. I mean, I have seen many people in my career who have gone all the way. No matter the reciprocation from the other side has been zero, they have not given up, because for them, this relationship is all that they identify with. So for them, they have invested their entire life into this relationship, and they are willing to go do whatever it takes, whether the other person reciprocates or not. So it's like, if I could draw a parallel, somebody is rude to you, but your culture and your values tell you that you should never be rude to anybody, whether they are older than you or younger than you. So you will continue to be polite. So this is one approach where a person realizes or decides that, no, I don't care if the other person is not contributing or not pulling their weight. This thing is so valuable to me that I will do whatever it takes. So that is one. The other one is where you need to take where a person suddenly realizes that, in doing this, I have lost my own identity completely. If you remember a few questions back, we spoke about, retaining your identity in a relationship. Like, it's very important that you retain your individual identity while having a combined unit as well. So if in the process of trying to ensure that things don't go off the track, you completely lose your own personality, your own identity, and you become a nervous wreck, I think that's a very clear sign for you that things are not all right, and you should be taking a call about it, because it is important for you to retain your sanity and to retain your identity as well. See, I want to stress here for all the listeners, this is a very complicated thing. Relationships, my favorite expression is, relationships are complicated at the best of times, not just at the worst of times, at the best of times. One, relationships are about we. Two, relationships are also about I. Three, relationships about units. Four, relationships about individual identities. Five, relationships about families. So it is a huge diaspora of things that you are interacting with. So in this question, I think the line is drawn, to my mind, the line is drawn two ways. One, I don't care what the other person is doing. I am wholly and solely invested in this, and I will go ahead. Two, I need some partnership from the other person. And if I'm not getting that and I'm losing my identity or losing my sanity, then I think that time has come to draw the line. So this is how I would look at this particular question. It is a very individualistic thing. We cannot give a generic answer to it, to be very honest.
Right. And I think that the example of being rude and being polite continuously was a very wonderful example that you shared, and you can relate to a lot of people who go through some of those situations. But there are always points when I think it's very individualistic, because something like breaking trust can be completely okay with some people. They forgive, they go on, and they actually live a very happy life post that. There are some people who could never come up, even though they have taken a different choice, but they could never get back their own self-esteem of the fact that they felt neglected and they felt cheated in a relationship. Their whole self-esteem went down the drain, and even though they took measures, steps, going away from that relationship, all of this breakup, whatever they required to do, they took all the bold steps, but they still are struggling with their own self-esteem, insecurity, self-worth, and questioning them. So it's a very individual perspective of things that comes in play and that's where I think always I felt a lot of people should not wait till the end for their relationship to be hanging in the ICU unit to go and take help, because it's very important for us to understand when there are these initial things, signs of not being happy. And like Dr. Arshad very, very nicely explained that, how do you understand that continuously there are disturbances, continuously there are issues in accepting each other's differences, and these starts initially itself, a lot of these things starts, and our goals, our relationship, we don't view ourselves as a we unit. When there are these challenges which are growing in, and especially when also we bring a third unit, which is our children, into the shape, and they start suffering or becoming party to some of the issues that we are having, when some of these things happen, it is the best that before it goes into a ICU unit, to reach out, to talk, to openly express, if it not necessarily two people, even if the one person who is looking to and willing to openly change things, to go and reach out and take, and then probably bring back those learning back into the system. And I think that's where a whole lot of people, maybe in India, in US, or in other countries, it's more prevalent. In India, we do not reach out till it is in the ICU unit. We deny that there is something wrong. We accept
Absolutely.
that fighting is normal. Our parents fought, we will also fight. But we have to understand that the times are changing and the ways are changing, our requirements are changing, and our exposures are changing. So our
Absolutely.
minds are, forget about the other person, probably our own mind is going to somewhere give up after a certain point of time, because we have so many other problems which we are also dealing with apart from this one problem, right? So I think
Sharmisha, if I can just add here, um, why does an athlete or a sports person get coached? Because by getting coached, they improve their skill set. One of the things I would like to say to every listener is that if you go and meet somebody, it could be even a friend, it doesn't have to be a professional, but even if you talk to a friend, by talking to someone doesn't mean that you are, that the whole world has come to an end. It is just as you very, very beautifully pointed it out, is that don't wait for you to have a heart attack. Eat your food well, keep your cholesterol low, exercise properly, and ensure that your valves are open and that there is no fat in your veins so that the blood doesn't stop flowing. If you do that, you will definitely be on the right side of this relationship management rather than the wrong side.
right, right, absolutely. I think with that, we beautifully come to the end of the discussion. And thank you, Dr. Asad, so much. And for those listener, I think Dr. Asad is a very well-known couple relationship counselor, and if you are going through some challenging situation, and if you want to just bounce off your thoughts, express your feelings, see where things can be done a little differently, you can reach out to us, contact at mindfully.in or www.mindfully.in. You can book Dr. Asad sessions or any of our counselor sessions to have a discussion on some of those issues. And I think it's also very important that what we mentioned about pre-counseling, pre-marital counseling, or pre-long-term counseling, because there is a lot of people are even co-living today. So, the co-live is itself has become a brand now, because we are opening up to co-living, and which is also in a way as a at least looking at a long-term relationship or a pre-long-term relationship, which is good in a way. But at the same time, if there are always ways to improve, and always ways to see whether what can work and what cannot work before any particular challenging situation actually come into us. All right. Okay. So thank you so much, Dr. Asad, and catch you later, and see you
Sure.
more often in Mindfully Sorted platform. And thank you for
Thank you
being
so
part
much.
of Mindfully Sorted platform.
Thank you. Wonderful to be part of it. Thank you so much, Sharmisha. God
Thank,
bless you.
thank you.